Now it's time to add the C. elegans into the chip environment. Remove the lid from your prepared 60mm synchronized culture plate and add approximately 3 milliliters of NGM buffer. Gently swirl the mixture around and then pour the liquid from its prepared plate into the lid. Preload approximately 250 microliters of NGM into the syringe. You're doing this to avoid air bubbles. Then, under a microscope, aspirate 30 to 35 animals into the syringe from the liquid that you poured into the lid. Using that same air avoidance fluid fusing technique as before, load the animals into the chip. Now be sure to keep your syringe vertical for this process. Repeat this step so you have 60 to 70 animals loaded onto the chip. And don't worry about any of the animals being in the fluid that escapes from the side ports. The design of the Infinity chip prevents any C. elegans from being pushed out of the chip. And just a quick note, loading more than 75 animals in a chip tends to make the progeny washing inefficient. So for experiments requiring 120 animals, just use 2 different chips. Don't forget this very important step. Using one of the solid dowel pins included in your kit, plug the center port securely to prevent animals from escaping the chip. Loading is almost done, but one very important part of the animal loading process is feeding. You don't want your animals to starve. Using the gel loading pipette tips, inject 200 microliters of E. coli OP50 bacteria at 20 milligrams per milliliter into one of the ports at either end of the Infinity chip. Place the chips into a petri dish. Then add about 10 milliliters of deionized water to the dish to maintain a humidified environment. Now it's ready to be placed in the incubator. Repeat the animal loading and feeding based on the number of chips that you use. And if you're running the experiment for an extended time, be sure to replenish the deionized water every 3 to 4 days to prevent the chips from drying out. Okay, your Infinity chip is now ready for your experiment. Some quick reminders. Don't load more than 75 animals per chip. And if you do get small air bubbles in the chip during animal loading, don't worry. They'll vanish overnight while the chips are being stored in the incubator.